Enter keyword quality in the search bar to save over 45%. Plus, you'll get the tasty bonus of 12 ultra juicy Omaha Steaks burgers free. That's almost 4 pounds of free burgers. To top it off, you'll also get $20 off on your first order. Go to omahasteaks.com and enter keyword quality.
Grief is a natural part of life. As hard as it is, we must find ways through it and not around it. We at Gundersons help guide families through one of life's most difficult times, the death of a loved one. We are here to listen, hear your stories, and help create healing ceremonies, the first step in acknowledging and honoring your grief. We provide options, support, and answer questions when you need us most. The journey of grief is not one to walk alone. Gundersons is here for you.
Michael Levine, broadcasting live.
That's right. I'm broadcasting live here from the corner of 2nd Avenue North and 10th Street here in Fort Dodge. What a beautiful day this is. It's not going to get very cold or warm today. It's going to be 63 today. 63, I think, for a high today. I don't even know. Let me check the temperature for you as we speak. Because oh, come on now. See, this is ladies and gentlemen, I have to apologize. I went through that COVID thing last November, but it's bothered me ever since. I've had a lot of problems remembering things. And of course, I'm an older man, and older people have trouble remembering where they put the car keys, and then they find them in their hand, like I've done a couple of times. But this COVID business, I'll tell you, it's not to be messed around with. I mean, I nearly died of it. Yeah, some of you may have seen the segment that Dave Price did for me on his WHO morning show, Channel 13 morning show. I've known Dave off and on for several years. I mean, we don't hang out or anything, but I've known him. He's been on this show several times. I've been on his program three times. Yeah, I nearly died of that problem of the COVID disease. And a lot of others have. So I was a little nonchalant about wearing masks when we first heard about things, this COVID thing, this weird virus. I thought that we were they started talking about socially distancing. God, we're out here in this rural area. We're already socially distanced. But I usually wore a mask, and I got COVID anyway. I don't know if I got it from around here or I took a trip in late October. Another friend of mine went out from Iowa. We went out to Spokane, Washington to see another dear friend of ours. And I know I got sick out there, and the plane ride home was one of the longest I've ever taken, the longest I've ever taken. And I know that, and I understand. I'm with you on this. I don't like a bossy federal government coming around. I mean, the CDC orders us to stay inside, orders us to do that. I mean, some judges, a federal judge, finally said the CDC was overstepping its bounds. Well, yeah. And I also know when a person falls in love with the camera and the microphone, that can happen. That can happen. In other words, somebody sees you or hears you on the microphone, on television, or on the radio. Hey, I heard you. You really sounded good. Well, you start to believe that. I mean, yes, I'm speaking from experience. But it's something false. But I'm telling you this because Dr. Fauci is in love with the camera. My God, that man is on every Sunday morning talk show, or almost everyone. And he never says anything different. That's the problem with people who advocate for masking. They scold you and never really tell you what the deal is. What progress have you made? What have you done? Those of you who want to wave your credential in our face, beat us over the head with the fact that you're a doctor, but you're unwilling to explain in layman's terms what sort of progress has been made or the origin story of COVID. I mean, this is over a year. I realize this is a new scourge on earth, but you have to say something other than mask up and shut up. All right? Because that isn't public health. That's something else. That's a strong desire to rub the nose of people you feel intellectually and morally superior to in the dirt. And I won't have it. I won't have. That's why I'm mad at Mediacom. That's why I'm mad at Verizon and all these big companies that don't seem to give a damn. Well, they don't give a damn. Went down to Verizon again. And I'll get off this pretty soon. I come out of an era, a time when customer service was huge. When we had Central Avenue full of businesses, privately owned businesses, they were right there on the spot with customer service every time. There was a complaint, they got it resolved one way or the other, almost without exception. And you didn't stay in business unless you did that. But now, Verizon has a near monopoly. Mediacom has a near monopoly. So they can tell us to go fly, take a fly and whatever. And they're not the only ones. Anybody seen a men's store? Well, Foley's here. I try to go out to Foley's every now and then. I haven't been there for a while, but I need a new suit, so I'm going to Foley's. There you go. But that's the last men's store in Fort Dodge. And they were in Manson for how long? It's John Foley is, I don't know, fourth or fifth generation. Maybe I talked to John a couple of years ago, actually, and was asking him about it. And I think that's what he told me. But Menards and all these places, they've killed private business. They've killed the dream of a lot of entrepreneurs. I'm glad to see that there are some entrepreneurs starting up. I have a little list of them, and I'm going to next week start talking to entrepreneurs who have adjusted with the times. The definition of an entrepreneur is being able to change with the times. The types of entrepreneurship we had 30 years ago, 25 years ago, are not the same types of entrepreneurship that we have today. Now, I'm also in favor of trust busting, old-fashioned Teddy Roosevelt trust busting, because we're in the situation that we're in and have nowhere else to go, and that's not an accident. That's a collaboration between our political figures and some very wealthy companies in this state. Simple political calculation for most politicians. These folks over here have the vote, but these folks over here have a lot of money. And money, honey, is the name of the tune. Big money will decide an election 9 times out of 10. Big money will come in at the very end of the campaign. That's why you see all those political commercials right before Election Day. They'll come in right at the end of the campaign and flood the airways and the newspapers. Not so much newspapers anymore, because newspaper is old media, way old media. But they'll flood the airwaves with advertising dollars. They'll just go crazy. Radio is old media. The only way radio is saved is if we go back to KVFD of 50, 60 years ago. I know that's back to the past, right? Not back to the future, but back to the past. Well, Max Landis used to tell me that the only time they played music, it was just a transition, a bridge from programming to program. I remember the extension service would have recommendations for how good things to cook seasonally. We'd always talk with the county extension office. We'd talk with this fellow or not. If it sounds like I'm describing the program that I do now, you are correct, because I followed the playbook that Max Landis laid out probably in 1969 or in there somewhere, or probably Ed Breen before him. If you can't have local opinions, local thoughts, local people on the air talking about everything from raising hogs to what's good for our kids, I don't see much of a future for radio, especially AM radio. Rush Limbaugh saved AM radio, by the way. But Rush came along 30-some years ago. And that type of opinion or radio will still be needed, but it's not going to be the way it was. Rush did that, by the way, not because he was a conservative, because he was hugely talented and nimble on his feet, I'll tell you. He handled callers like nobody I ever saw. Nobody I ever heard, perhaps I should say. Rush was a once-in-a-lifetime talent. Glenn Beck, Sean Hannity, they can't hold a candle to him. Get down with that. I can't. Glenn Beck, his voice goes through my head like a nail. I might agree with him politically. I like Tucker Carlson. There's a big push now by culture warriors and social justice warriors from the left who have tattoos on their face to get Tucker Carlson fired. And I've mentioned that Mr. Meyer, Justin Meyer, had a change.org petition. I think I've got it on one of my Facebook pages here somewhere. I'm sure I posted it on my Facebook page somewhere. Maybe it's on AM 1400 KVFD. I think that's probably where it is. But anyway, you'll see the change.org position. And of course, Mr. Meyer said I was insensitive to people with mental health. And there's always that nebulous phrase out there, not the way we want to go, or not leading the way we want to go, or some nonsense. I don't even know what those things mean. They sound so good, but nobody knows what the hell really they're talking about. Really, they don't. Not leading us in the direction that we want to go. They say it with such passion and force and make eye contact, deep thinking. Not leading the way that we want to go. Well, can you elaborate on that a little bit there, Dr. Fauci? Don't just sit there and say, I'm Dr. Fauci, I'm the head of the CDC. I'm an infectious disease control specialist. Tell us what you got, buddy. You're not the Pope. Fauci sounds like an Italian name. Maybe that's what he thinks. The popes used to do that. Come out and say, I've been talking with God, and this is what you're going to do because I'm God's vicar on earth. I'm the vicar of Christ. I'm the Pope. And you should, that's from ancient times. God comes out of the machine. In ancient times, they would have wise men, priests in Greece. And there would be a problem when the people would gather at the feet of this priest. The priest was usually in front of a cave on a slight ledge higher than everybody else. We have this problem. What should we do? What should we do? The priest or the pope or the leader or the king or whatever would hold up his hand and say, I'm going into the cave. He'd go into the cave and he'd be in there a little while. And he'd come back out and say, I have been talking with God, and this is what you should do. God has told me you're all going to be all right as long as you do as I say, because I'm speaking for God. That's God out of the machine. It turned out to be God out of the machine. But that seems to be what Fauci and some of these infectious disease people do. I'm going to tell you I'm following the science, you Christian rubes, in your silly beliefs. So, you must mask up and socially distance ad infinitum. Get your vaccinations, but we're still going to shake our finger in your face because we've been talking with God in the cave back here. I've been in a couple of caves. I never saw God. Never, not once. Not once. And God doesn't talk to me. Some people think God talks to them. I'm a little worried about those people, I'll tell you. Seriously, I'm worried about those people. This is AM 1400 KVFT, the voice for Dodge. Still 60 degrees. Is it going to warm up anytime soon? Not really. It's going to be It's going to be 63 next Tuesday, and there's going to be off and on showers. 58 on Saturday. That's not even close to hot weather, but I'm wearing shorts anyway. That was too traumatic for me to just stay in long underwear any more than I absolutely had to. Boy, February was a brutal month. Just a brutal month. And Michael Devine, if you care to join the program, it's 515-955-1400, 515-955-1400. Facebook will continue to allow drug ads to target teens, activists say. Let me give that to you again. Facebook will allow drug ads to target teenagers, activists say. Now, isn't this the same wonderful group that just made sure that Trump couldn't be on their pages anymore because Trump was some sort of hazard? Huh? Of all the hypocrisy in the world, this is really some of the best. Of all the hypocrisy, this is some of the best. According to this piece, and this is from a business magazine, teenagers on Facebook can be targeted by ads endorsing alcohol, drugs, gambling, smoking, and eating disorders, according to a report by the watchdog group, the Tech Transparency Project. Somebody needed to do it, doesn't they? The Tech Transparency Project created 6 test ads and submitted them to Facebook, saying it wanted to reach users 13 to 17. Facebook approved all the ads within hours, including one promoting pill parties, in 43 minutes. But Trump's got to go. Trump's got to go. Now, we can... This is astonishing. It sounds... And it points to the naked greed of Zuckerberg and his greedy little crowd. Let me give that to you again. The Tech Transparency Project created 6 test ads and submitted them to Facebook, saying it wanted to reach users 13 to 17, and Facebook approved all the ads within hours. And here's the kicker, including one promoting pill parties, in 43 minutes. They didn't even look at the content. They saw the green, and that was it. According to Transparency Project Director Katie Paul, this is an easy fix, and Facebook should have had the foresight to make it a long time ago. Yeah, that's an understatement. But we have to have a special panel to decide where a former president, whether you like it or not, a former president of the United States can even be on their social media page. That is virtue signaling, and you pull a curtain back, and I thank the Transparency Project for doing this, the Tech Transparency Project for doing this. You pull it back, and you see what's really going on with Facebook. It's the money. It's always the money. Every bit of it's the money. Joe Biden is president today because big business could not tolerate Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders, and they told the Democratic Party that, and Miss Nancy Pelosi shrunk up like a bug and pushed through Biden. By the way, I'm reading a book called Lucky now. It's by 2 New York Times reporters. Lucky. It's about the campaign in 2020 and how lucky Biden was to get the nomination. Because practically nobody wanted him. I mean, some of the old guard did, but mainly they wanted Biden because, you know, he sent her a credit card. He saved all the credit card. He worked on behalf of the credit card companies. A lot of them are in Delaware. And by the way, Biden opposed school busing in the 1970s, and he opposed abortion. So this is not an ideal candidate for the Democratic Party in 2020, but he's the president, isn't he? 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Thanks for listening.
Hi, this is Leslie Segretti.
And I'm Tom Kreitler, and you can hear the Money Pit every Saturday afternoon from 4 to 6